Welcome to the WanderLearn Show. This is your host, Francis Tapon. Finally, the U.S. election is next Tuesday. Hallelujah. So sick and tired of hearing about this damn thing. I wanted to talk about my vote, which is for Chase Oliver. He's the Libertarian candidate. And a lot of times when I say that, why aren't you voting for Kamala Harris? Why aren't you voting for Donald Trump? You're just throwing away your vote, Francis. You're just wasting a vote. These people, it's incredible. They really don't understand the electoral college system at all. And they probably don't understand libertarianism, and maybe they don't even have principles. Let me explain. If you think that voting is for libertarian is throwing away your vote, let's imagine a parallel universe where the following happens. Your favorite candidate, let's just say for the sake of argument that it's Kamala Harris. She aligns with your values. She represents what you kind of think and what you prefer. Maybe not perfectly, but overall, you're a much better fit for your values and what you would like to see the country go to than Donald Trump. Okay, so you kind of aligned with her. Now, let's say in that world, Kamala Harris is not polling at 49% and Donald Trump at 49%, but instead, she's polling at 2%. And Donald Trump is going 49% neck on neck with the Libertarian candidate, Chase Oliver. He's got 49%. And Donald Trump's got 49%. Now, Kamala Harris represents your perspective, your views. You adhere to the Democrat platform and not so much the Republican platform, and you don't really like libertarianism either. So what do? Well, I would say that it depends on where you live. So if you live in a battleground state, then your vote really matters. If you live in, let's say, a place like Michigan, a place like Wisconsin, a place like Nevada, these are places where your vote really matters. Those elections will be determined by a few thousand votes. So, of course, your vote really matters there. But if you live in a non-swing state like California, New York, Alaska, maybe Texas, these states, the outcome is pretty much determined. In our parallel universe fictitious scenario here, they're either solidly libertarian or solidly Republican. And there's really no chance in hell that your favorite candidate, Kamala Harris, is going to win. Now, what if you live in one of those places? Let's say you live in California. Let's say California normally always goes to the libertarians. Are you going to vote are you going to vote for Kamala Harris? My answer to you would be, I hope so. Why? Because if Kamala Harris and the Democratic platform really adhere to your values and the way your beliefs, and you look at libertarianism and you're like, oh, not my cup of tea, not ideal, it's not bad. Maybe you might think libertarianism is a little bit better than the Republican platform, but the bottom line, you're like, I like it a little bit better than the Republican platform, but really, really where my heart and soul is, it's in the Democrat Party and for what they stand for. Nobody gives a fuck who you vote for in these non-swing states because it's a winner-take-all system in almost all the states. I think Maine is one of the exceptions, and I can't remember the other one, maybe Nebraska, who knows. But the bottom line is, in almost all the states, it's a winner-take-all. So whether the Libertarian candidate gets 51% of the vote or 99% of the vote, they get all the points associated with the Electoral College system. But I know this is a crazy system. It doesn't make any fucking sense. It's a stupid, antiquated system that we should get rid of. We all agree with that, but guess what? That's the system that we have. And now some people then say, you're sending a message when they win the popular vote. I was like, okay, so let me get this straight. I should vote for one of the major parties just to send a message to the other party that, fuck you. You know, you may have won, the Republicans may have won the election. They won the Electoral College, but they never won the popular vote. They lost in Al Gore's election. They lost in Hillary Clinton's election. So in the end, well, who gives a fuck? Who cares if they win the popular vote? It doesn't fucking matter, period. So there's no sending a message. I've had people literally tell me this. That say, yeah, you should send a message. The popular vote kind of matters. It's symbolic. It tells them that they don't have a mandate. Oh my God, I don't care. Being registered in California, as I am, my vote doesn't matter. I can vote for Mickey Mouse. It's going to be converted to a vote for Kamala Harris. I could vote for Donald Trump. It's going to be converted to Kamala Harris. No matter if I vote for Kamala Harris, hallelujah, it's going to Kamala Harris. It doesn't matter who I vote. Study the electoral college system and you will understand what I'm saying. Ohio, for example, used to be a swing state. Now it's not a swing state anymore. Now Pennsylvania is a swing state. Florida used to be a swing state. It's not a swing state anymore. Battleground states shift. But one thing's for sure, California never is a battleground state it's been a long time since if it ever was a battleground state. Libertarianism is more aligned with my values. And I live in California. It doesn't matter who the fuck I vote for, frankly. But I do think it's important still to vote. Because why? Because it gives you a right to complain. It gives you a say, you know what? I put in my 2 cents. I did my civic duty and I voted. My candidate didn't win. And now I can complain. But if you did not even bother to vote, well, then you don't have a right to complain. Shut the fucking mouth up. And just because you're just going to sit there like, oh, they're all the same. All the politicians are the same. Well, okay, well then don't complain about whatever system we live in because you had your chance to say what you want to say. You could put in your voice to be heard. And yes, I understand your voice is not really heard in this electoral college system in many ways. I understand, but just do your civic duty and vote. It's not, I understand it's frustrating. I'm frustrated by the electoral college system, but that's the way it works. Let's hope one day it will change. I don't expect it to, but that's the way it works. Finally, let me talk about what is libertarianism, because a lot of people have misconceptions. Some people say like, oh, it's a right-wing party or something like that. For example, when Milei won in Argentina recently, they called him, he's a far-right person. He's a libertarian. They don't understand what libertarianism is. If you're saying it's far-right, it is a party that believes in maximal freedom. That's the simplest summary of it. In other words, they want minimal government regulations on the economy, on low taxes, low government spending. So the basic philosophy is the government that governs best is the government that governs least. So, for example, I don't want you in my personal life. Don't tell me what my diet should be. Don't tell me whether I can take drugs or not. Don't tell me whether I need to go on a military draft. Don't censor content. These are very democratic values, by the way, where they have more liberalized view of immigration as well. They're not so restrictive. They're not so xenophobic. Also, far right, you kind of think of Hitler and stuff like that, and warmongerings. Libertarianisms in general are very much pacifist. In other words, they want to pull out of many conflicts. Libertarianism believes in reducing the size of the military, cutting military spending in half, getting out of all our 830 military bases overseas, and minimizing our military footprint. These are ideas, and those are not really, you would think of typically as a far-right philosophy. That's like, And the issue of abortion is actually kind of interesting. It just depends on whether or not, you can look at my video up there about abortion, but it really depends on when you think life begins. And so most libertarianism are pro-choice, but there's a few libertarians who are pro-life. And it just depends on your conception of life. Again, see that video up there or in the description to understand where that debate lands. Because, by the way, abortion is not a moral debate. It's a question more about when life begins and ends. Anyway, that's another story. So I would encourage people to check out libertarianism. I don't have any hope in hell that it's ever going to be a major party in my lifetime. But don't think that the Democrats and Republican duopoly is going to last forever. There were definitely in America's history other parties that kind of rose and fell, the Whig Party, and there was other parties that kind of came and went. The Republican Party is not that old. It's like maybe 170 years old or something like that. So it's, there are parties that come and go. And maybe one day we'll have a third party candidate that will really be tremendous. Ross Perot was the last third party candidate that was actually polling very high. He actually, for a brief moment in time, was the leading candidate above Bill Clinton. I can't remember who Bill Clinton was going against. And there was a brief moment, I think it was in 1992, that election, I think it was going against Bush, I guess. Ross Perot was polling higher than Ella. He had his brand new party, but it was very brief. Anyway, that might happen again. You never know. It's just a cult of personality for it to happen. You need some really charismatic person to pull it off. Anyway, that's my message to you. Don't wag your finger at people who vote for third parties. Don't say that they're throwing away their vote, because if you don't live in a swing state, everybody's throwing away their vote, frankly, in a sense. Their vote is kind of not really mattering in a way. You're not moving the needle. And understand libertarianism, what it is, what it isn't. I gave you a brief teaser on that. And this is Francis Tapon, encouraging you to wander, learn, and of course to vote. And that ends this episode of the WanderLearn podcast, where we explore travel, technology, and transformation. If you'd like to see the show notes with links to what we've talked about, go to WanderLearn.com and click on this episode. If you'd like to connect with me, just remember Tapon. That's my first initial and my last name. Tapon is always my social media username. My website is ftapon.com. Do you want to leave me an anonymous voicemail where you can make a comment or ask a question? Then go to speakpipe.com/ftapon. Furthermore, if you'd like to get rewarded for supporting my projects, then go to patreon.com/ftapon. That's where you can pick up some remarkable rewards for as little as $2 a month. Now, 5 quick favors. Number 1, subscribe to the WanderLearn podcast. 2, download it. 3, share it. 4, review it. And 5, sign up for my newsletter at wanderlearn.com. Our theme music was composed by Eric Stratman. This is Francis Tapon, encouraging you to wander and learn.